All right, Bills Mafia, buckle up because we got a lot to talk about after that dominant Buffalo win. This is one of those games where the scoreboard only tells part of the story. You look at the numbers and think, yeah, the Bills crushed it, but when you dig in, especially with the passing offense, there's a lot to unpack. So let's get into it, starting with what everyone's talking about. Josh Allen and the passing game. Josh Allen finished the afternoon completing 12 of 19 passes for 163 yards and a touchdown. On paper, that looks clean. His expected points added per drawback was plus .29, ninth best in the entire league this week. But the stats don't quite match what our eyes told us. There were some struggles, some missed chances, and a whole lot of moments where Josh just didn't look like the confident, rhythm-driven quarterback we're used to seeing. His average depth of target was only 5.7 yards. That's incredibly low for him. And get this, 72% of his passing yardage came after the catch. That tells you right away that the Bills weren't stretching the field vertically. Add to that the fact that 21% of his throws were off target, and you can see why the offense felt a little out of sync. Now, before anyone panics, it's worth pointing out that several big-name quarterbacks had accuracy issues this week too. Baker Mayfield, Dak Prescott, Justin Herbert, all of them were north of 19% off-target throws. So, this wasn't some catastrophic outlier for Allen. But still, when you've got one of the most talented arms in football, you expect to see more zip, more confidence, and more flow from the offense. After rewatching the tape, the main takeaway is simple. Josh Allen wasn't comfortable. It wasn't about some exotic defensive structure from Carolina. This wasn't like that Falcons game earlier in the year where the defense threw weird looks at him. This time, it was more about Josh himself. The timing was off. The rhythm wasn't there. He just didn't execute at the level we normally see. Joe Brady, the offensive coordinator, had some interesting comments about it on Monday. When asked about the lack of rhythm in the passing game, he basically said, "We didn't really need to pass." He pointed out that the team ran for over 240 yards, so the game plan worked. Brady admitted there are always things to clean up, technique, scheme, timing, but overall, he wasn't worried. His tone said it all. When you dominate on the ground, you can live with a quiet day through the air. Josh Allen also spoke after the game, and his self-awareness stood out. He admitted he wasn't getting into a rhythm, that he wasn't trusting his feet, and that he forced a few things he shouldn't have. You could hear the frustration in his voice, not panic, but genuine disappointment. When asked if he was worried about the passing offense, he said, "Not concerned at all." He explained that if he trusted his mechanics and worked through his progressions, they wouldn't even be having that conversation. It was about trust in his reads, trust in his footwork, trust in the guys around him. That word came up over and over again, trust. You could tell it wasn't just a throwaway comment. It was something deeper. He talked about needing to settle in early, to trust his drops, to let the game come to him instead of trying to force big plays. He even admitted that some of the discomfort probably came from the excitement of getting back on the field after the bye week. There was that eagerness to make something happen right away instead of just letting the offense breathe. And honestly, that tracks. Josh Allen is one of the most competitive dudes in the NFL. He wants to make a play every single snap. But sometimes that eagerness turns into pressing. You could see it, turning down open throws, bailing from clean pockets, overthinking his progressions. It's not that the defense had him figured out. It's that he wasn't in sync with himself. When you watch the film, you see plenty of examples where he had guys open and just didn't pull the trigger, or moments where he left the pocket even though protection was solid. Those are signs of a quarterback trying a little too hard instead of letting the game come to him. And I think that's where the trust issue shows up most. If he trusted what he saw out there, if he trusted his weapons completely, those passes would have come out on time. Now, some people are wondering if that lack of trust has to do with the supporting cast. It's possible. If Allen felt like he needed to hold the ball longer to make something happen, maybe that's a sign he doesn't fully trust the receivers to win right away. And that's where this conversation might shift as the season goes on. Maybe adding another reliable target could help open things up and bring back some of that comfort we're used to seeing. But here's the thing. We've seen Josh Allen go through stretches like this before. Remember last year, during his MVP run? There was a lull in the middle of the season, a couple of games where he just didn't look sharp. And then, like flipping a switch, he got right back to form. The guy's track record speaks for itself. He always bounces back. He's too talented, too smart, and too competitive to stay off rhythm for long. That's why it's important to keep perspective here. This was just one October game. In September, Allen threw for 400 yards against Baltimore and looked like the best player on the planet. Tony Romo was literally on the broadcast saying that Allen had reached that mental level where it's unfair to defenses because he sees everything before it happens. That's the same guy we're talking about now. Nothing's changed overnight. So yes, this wasn't his sharpest performance. The timing was off, the execution was shaky, and the passing game felt limited. But the foundation is still solid. The offense works. The quarterback knows what's wrong. And that's half the battle. When your MVP caliber quarterback can pinpoint the issue, mechanics, footwork, trust, that's something you can fix. That's not a system issue or a scheme problem. That's just rhythm. And meanwhile, while everyone's dissecting the passing struggles, the Bills quietly put together one of their best rushing performances in years. They ran for nearly 250 yards for touchdowns on the ground and completely imposed their will on a top 10 run defense. So if the problem is that the quarterback didn't have to throw because the ground game was so dominant, I'd say that's a pretty good problem to have. Still, it's fascinating to see how self-critical Allen is. You can tell he holds himself to an incredibly high standard. Most quarterbacks would look at a comfortable win like that and shrug off a few missed throws. Not Josh. He's already breaking down film, talking about his feet, his rhythm, his progressions. That's why the locker room believes in him. That's why the fan base does too. Because you know he's going to fix it. The big question moving forward is simple. How quickly can he get that trust and rhythm back? My guess? Sooner rather than later. This team's offense is too dynamic, too well-coached, and too experienced not to iron this out. And as the season keeps rolling, these little stretches of inconsistency will probably just fade into the background. When you step back and look at the bigger picture, the Bills are in a great spot. They dominated in the trenches, controlled the game flow, and came out with a convincing win, all while their franchise quarterback had an off day. That's what good teams do. They find ways to win even when everything isn't clicking perfectly. And once Allen settles back into his rhythm, you can bet this offense will look as explosive as ever. Because, man, when the Bills decided they were going to run the football, they didn't just commit to it. They absolutely owned it. This was the kind of ground performance that reminds you why balance in an offense matters so much. 35 rushing attempts, 245 yards for touchdowns, and a tone that was set early and never let up. The Panthers simply couldn't stop it, and James Cook led the charge in a way that was nothing short of spectacular. 19 carries, 216 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an average of over 11 yards per carry. That's not just a good game. That's historic. Cook became only the 4th player in NFL history to rush for over 215 yards and score multiple touchdowns on fewer than 20 carries. That's absurd efficiency. He had 121 rushing yards over expectation, which means he wasn't just running to the open spots. He was creating them. He was seeing things before they opened up, pressing the line, cutting decisively, and running like a man who knew exactly what kind of day it was going to be. And credit where it's due, the offensive line and blocking unit were phenomenal. This wasn't one of those games where the running back had to dance around broken plays or fight through constant contact. Cook had 141 of his yards before even being touched. That's a line doing serious work. David Edwards, Connor McGovern, Jackson Haw, Reggie Gilliam. These guys were mauling defenders all afternoon. It looked like every single one of them took it personally to dominate the line of scrimmage. What stood out most wasn't just how they blocked at the point of attack, but how disciplined they were on the backside. So often in the NFL, a run gets blown up not because of the play side blocking, but because someone on the backside doesn't seal off pursuit. The Bills were meticulous about that. Receivers, tight ends, even Josh Allen on occasion. Everyone had a job, and everyone did it. You saw backside receivers sprinting across the formation to throw key blocks that extended runs into explosive plays. That kind of collective effort doesn't happen by accident. It's a culture thing. It's a team deciding that they're going to win physically and back it up with effort. The under-center running game was another major key. About 85% of James Cook's carries came from under center, and that made all the difference. When the quarterback is under center, the running back gets ahead of steam toward the line of scrimmage. The defense can't immediately commit to rushing the passer, and everything just develops more naturally. The tempo, the rhythm, the pace, it all looked smoother. The run plays at flow. You could see how comfortable Cook was taking those handoffs, pressing the gap, and then exploding through space. And let's talk scheme. The Bills leaned heavily into their zone runs. 15 of Cook's 19 carries came on zone concepts, with the rest being gap runs. The outside toss plays were especially deadly. They ran those tosses so effectively that by the time Cook broke off his second touchdown, the defense had overcommit to the edge. 5 defenders sold out trying to stop the perimeter, and Cook just cut it right back inside for a walk-in score. That's what happens when an offense establishes tendencies and then flips them at the perfect moment. It was smart football, executed with precision. Watching Cook run was poetry in motion. He was patient when he needed to be, explosive when the lane opened, and physical at the finish. You could tell he trusted what he saw, trusted his blockers, and trusted himself. And that trust, that theme that we talked about earlier with Josh Allen, it was the difference here. The run game looked like a unit operating in complete harmony. The blockers trusted the back to hit the hole, and the back trusted them to create it. That's when a rushing attack becomes special. The tight ends deserve a ton of praise, too. Jackson Haw was unbelievable as a blocker. It's rare to see a rookie tight end come in and show that kind of technique and power right away. He was sealing edges, moving bodies, and setting up Cook for some of his biggest runs. Dawson Knox also played a big role, while Dalton Kincaid, even in limited snaps, gave solid effort. But Haw really jumped off the screen. You could watch his tape and think this guy might already be the best blocking tight end in the league. That's how dominant he looked. Reggie Gilliam, the fullback, was another unsung hero. 26 snaps, and every single one looked like a highlight for the offensive line coach. His lead blocking has quietly improved every year, and in this game, it was elite. He was finding linebackers, cutting off safeties, and creating angles that made life easy for Cook. When your fullback is hitting like that, the run game has an entirely different energy. Before we dive back in, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Your support helps us keep delivering the latest Buffalo Bills updates straight to your screen. And hey, don't hold back. Let us know your thoughts on today's news down in the comments. In a shocking turn of events that has sent ripples through the NFL community, the league has officially announced the cancellation of the highly anticipated matchup between the Carolina Panthers and the Buffalo Bills. Fans who were counting down the days for what promised to be an electrifying clash are now left in disbelief, and whispers of controversy are spreading like wildfire. Sources close to the situation hint that the cancellation was not just a logistical decision. Rumors have surfaced suggesting that recent images, which have begun circulating on social media, show what some are calling a blatant act of cheating that allegedly influenced team dynamics during practice sessions leading up to the game. While the NFL has remained tight-lipped about the specifics, insiders claim that the images are convincing enough to trigger an immediate halt to the contest, raising questions about the integrity of the league's oversight. Fans and analysts alike are dissecting the footage, trying to piece together exactly what happened. Some speculate that technology misuse or an unauthorized strategy leak may have been involved, while others point to potential tampering with equipment or communications. The Panthers' locker room reportedly erupted in a mix of confusion and anger, while the Bills camp is said to be preparing a statement defending their reputation and denying any wrongdoing. The announcement has ignited a frenzy across sports talk shows and social media platforms, with hashtags trending that demand transparency and accountability from the NFL. Former players, commentators, and even rival team coaches have weighed in, some calling for an investigation that could reshape league policies on fairness and security. Meanwhile, fans have flooded forums with heated debates, conspiracy theories, and calls for either rescheduling the game or issuing penalties. While official word from the league remains limited, Insiders suggest that this cancellation could be a turning point, not just for the teams involved, but for the NFL's approach to controversy management in the future. Whatever the truth behind the images, one thing is clear. The rumor mill is running at full speed, and the anticipation for answers is only growing. For now, Panthers and Bills supporters are left in limbo, wondering if the next time these two powerhouses meet, it will be under a cloud of scandal or redemption. That's a wrap for now. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay on top of all things Buffalo Bills, make sure to subscribe and hit that like button. We'd love to hear what you think in the comments. See you in the next update.